shall introduce myself and the organization I work for. I'm wearing a green badge that says I'm not a scientist, and this was something I had to choose between the badges, and I thought I am not a scientist, so I'm not going to click a grey badge. And then I thought, so what does this imply? Because on my business card, I work for the Rathenau Institute, which is part of the Royal Academy of Sciences. It says senior researcher. And then I realized that I have this misconception that I'm dealing with in this presentation, but I use it for myself as well. So for me, deep hidden inside me is this feeling that a scientist is the person sitting inside university doing research, doing science, not going outside, and a researcher is someone who might. But the point of my presentation is something else, so I need to convince myself as well, and I thought I was convinced already. I work for the Rathenau Institute, and some of you might not know it. We're dealing with issues in science and research policy in the Netherlands. My specialty is in research evaluation and valorization impact of research. And I've done research the last couple of years into the issue of valorization. And the reason was because we found that so many scientists, people working in universities, don't know what it is, valorization. So what I'll do is I'll tell some insights. We had 3 insights, and I'll base that, show some examples as well. But we did not only study how scientists perceive or deal with the issue of valorization, we also have quite good contacts with people in the policy organizations in the Netherlands, the ministry, the NWO, the Royal Academy, and the Association of Sciences. Now first, the thing is, what is this thing that we are talking about, valorization? I know for many people working in universities, the idea is that it is about earning money, and I am aware that in some universities, or maybe most universities, there is a very strict relation between earning money and valorization, just because you cannot work even more than 2.4 jobs in a life. But the idea is that it's far more than earning money. Valorization, and whether you call it impact or whatever, I like this definition because the word process is in it. Valorization is a process of creating value from knowledge by making that knowledge available and or usable for others. And the very nice thing the NWO uses that might be in other disciplinary, in other disciplines outside your own. There are people working in ICT, collaborating with people in biology, or collaborating with people in medical imaging, doing nice things. The NWO considers that valorization as well. Valorization is a process. But then what does it look like? And I've got a couple of examples. This is Archeon. It's the archaeology theme park in Alphen aan den Rijn. And what you see here is a Roman wall. And it's quite an accurate Roman wall based on an excavation that had been done in 2 places near Alphen aan den Rijn. The people involved in this were archaeologists from the University in Nijmegen. They have their own, every university with the Department of Archaeology has their own company or business dealing with excavations. They were contacted by Archeon when they said, we want to make a Roman wall, and we know that you've done some excavations nearby. Can you help us? Interestingly, when they made this design, they found out that some things didn't work the way they thought. Because if you do an excavation, you only find the basis of the wall, so you don't know what it looks like, and you know what it looks like from pictures that you have, or from sculptures, but you haven't built it. So interestingly enough, this led to further research into so what did a Roman wall really look like, and isn't it different than we thought? why I think this is such a nice example is that when we approached the person responsible for this, we really had to convince him that what he was doing was valorization. He said, I'm just doing my work. I am an archaeologist and I deal with this organization, I do these excavations, and we've organized it in such a way that we can use the results from our commercial enterprise, that we can use it for our research. So it's just science that I'm doing. So sometimes it might be just so close to what people do that they don't see that it is valorization. This is Margriet Sitskoorn. She is a social psychologist. She participates in the Nationale IQ-test on Dutch national television. And I like it because what she does here is more or less, I think, first year knowledge. Any first year psychology student probably knows what she tells in this television program, but she is an expert, she is a professor, she knows how to do it, and what she does is she explains to the audience what this thing is that we're doing, this IQ test, and what this specific part of the IQ test measures. So she educates us and she helps us understand what we're doing. This is not based on her recent research project. This is common knowledge from her field that she translates for people like you and me watching television. And not just sending something, but trying to make us understand what we're doing. This is it's a picture of an open heart surgery. What you see here is the octopus. The octopus is a piece of equipment that was designed by an open heart surgeon who thought it's that he could improve the way they did the surgery, and he thought we need something that stabilizes the heart while it is in place, and we don't have to take the heart out because that enhances the risk. So he designed this piece of equipment, which is a very different type of valorization than this or that. There are very many examples. Now, if you talk with scientists, and we've heard this before. Hello, Ingeborg. People really don't know what is expected of them. It's a rather unclear vision what valorization is, other than this, it has to do with earning money, because I could have used a picture of lightning as well, because some people really get angry when you talk about valorization, because they conceive it as something that is put upon them by the ministry, because the ministry asked them to do this thing that they don't want to do. But if you look at my previous slides, I don't think that people do this because the ministry has asked them to do so, but because they want to do it, and because they like doing it, and because that is what they like to do in their job. So what I try to do here, and what you might try to do as well within the university, is make some vision and make it a bit clearer to people what valorization is. But what we've heard as well is that if you look at the university in general, or an individual scientist, it is like a Christmas tree where you put on more and more balls and lights and things. You need to do research, excellent research, earn your grants, excellent teaching, have your part in the organization, do valorization, do internationalization as well. So what more can you ask? And then the question is this the picture of the university, or is this the picture of the individual scientist? And the individual scientist, adding up to 1.9 or 2.4, think, well, we need to do all this. And then, of course, it was said, maybe you should look at it from the point of view from the department. And I always thought that was a good idea, but I'm sitting next to a department head, two department heads. So you become a Christmas tree on your own with all your tasks of deciding on that. But also, we know from a Christmas tree that when one light breaks, that you don't have light anymore. So there is this thing, and that's why I like the idea still of looking at it on a departmental point of view, or a project, that you do collaborate. And this person in the room where you throw in every now and then some water and some bread, everybody, no. Many people have somebody like that in their department, and they know that that person is needed. But I think that some people in the department do more than just throw bread and water, but do talk with that person, and do use that knowledge, and do go out with that. So there is probably more collaboration going on. Having said that, and oh no, and that is something, and I'm really, because there's quite some HRM people here, I don't know whether you do see it as a task or whether you do have an opportunity to discuss this issue in your university, that you maybe shouldn't ask everything from every scientist, but look at it from an organizational point of view and look at the department more. But then what you might also have noticed is that there's different departments in your university that are differently organized, and that's in every university, but that collaboration in some departments is more common than in other departments. That in some fields of science, people need to collaborate in order to do their work. In other fields, people don't necessarily need to collaborate in order to do their work. In some fields, competition is different than in other fields. It's about not just the money, but also, is it okay to be different competition-wise or not? So I think when you talk with your departments, that there is no one-size-fits-all approach. That there are these differences, these cultural differences, that you need to take into account. If you go to your philosophy department and you ask how about this huge international collaboration projects they're involved in, they probably think we don't know what you're talking about. Whereas if you go to the particle physicists, they're probably not there because they're at CERN collaborating with people. So there's different cultures, and take that into account. And that's what you said when you define your criteria for valorization. The first one you said was patent, and I thought, oh, poor theologists. You said the lay speeches,
Yeah.
that theologists might do probably a little bit more than the medical imaging people.
Yeah.
So that really is important to discuss. Also, my field of research is science and technology studies. So it is from my field where bibliometry has developed. Things like the H-index, or the people in Leiden, the CWTS group, who does such nice bibliometric studies. I consider those my peers. There's someone sitting over there from that department. And we are a bit afraid in our field to overemphasize quantitative measures. Yes, so what do we know when we know an H-index? And that makes us really scary when we talk about valorization, to start looking for the one quantitative indicator that you can really use and measure, and then you know it. There's really differences in valorization depending on your discipline, but also depending on the institute you work for. I work at the Rathenau Institute, we're a mission-oriented institute. I need to deal with practice. I'm standing here, this is valorization for me, talking to you, trying to share my understanding of what happens in the field with you. And that is because I work in an institute that is mission-oriented and needs to deal with policies. That's why I'm here. In a technical university, there might be different ideas what the university is for in general than at a general university or at the University of Humanistiek in Utrecht. Now, there's one more thing. So this is apples and oranges, and you know, it's different. This is the pears, and this is a bit of a silly joke. It's a pear. It's the scientific peer. Now, don't forget that for scientists, their peer community is really important. And when you say we understand scientists,
it's really important that you understand what goes on in the peer community, that's one discussion. And then there's all these things from policy coming, saying, oh, you should do this as well, and you should that as well, or at least it's perceived as that. On the other hand, scientists often tell me, well, it's really difficult to get a project like that funded because, it is not funded by the Research Council. And then I said, but the Research Council doesn't make the decision. It's the peers that make the decision. It's peer reviewed, remember? And you are in peer review committees as well, aren't you? Mm-hmm. So what do you do when you have to assess a proposal that is a bit more towards impact? Well, we just look at the literature list and the H index. So I try to, when scientists tell me it's really difficult to change, I also tell them you are part of that change as well, because peer review is such a central issue in science policy. So it's both.
You have 5 minutes.
Oh, that's fine. Now, I've checked this with people from Eindhoven. This is a picture from the University Eindhoven, where they said, so this is basically the 4 fields that we expect our scientists to act upon. But isn't it strange? This is a very simple way of putting it. People of Eindhoven can explain it better. Isn't it strange that in order to get to become professor, you have to be at least excellent in research, and then maybe excellent in other fields as well? Why don't we say you have to have minimum requirements, which are not that low, but excellence in education or valorization might as well be a good way to fulfill the standards. And it's a bit similar to what we've heard before. So you might try to change it and look in different ways, but then I am aware that as HRM people, you are not part of the scientific community who partly decides on who gets promoted. So there's this two-way thing. Now, remember the octopus I showed you in the beginning with the equipment used in open heart surgery? This researcher had earned quite a substantial amount of money for the academic hospital he works for. This is not someone who writes that many academic publications. That's not his strength. They had difficulties with him because they didn't know what to do with him, because he didn't perform according to the requirements. Now the good thing was that they have designed an innovation track at the University Medical Hospital where he works, where they say it's still based on the UFO system, but they've taken out different items, and they said so in groups it might be okay if some people work on an innovation track, people that do other things, partly other things, and we value them for that. So that's also a different way, similar to this, but an alternative for people to be rewarded for what they are doing. So when we talk about valorization or impact, the definition is unclear to many. But what I see, and that's the pictures I've showed you in the beginning, the examples, more is done than people are aware of. People are unaware of what they're doing, and that's called valorization or impact or creation of impact. On the other hand, because it's often a non-issue and not discussed, or discussed in a very strict way, one could also argue that less is done than one could expect. I talked about the Christmas tree, and that has to do with the responsibility. So who is responsible for valorization? What for? It's the responsibility of a university to have a TTO, a valorization office. That's not the responsibility of the individual scientist. So you can think of it at different levels. But always, I've seen so much focus on the individual scientist needing to do everything, being judged on all these issues. I think that will not hold. Stimulate, don't punish, think of different rewards, but then you really need to have your discussion with the scientists as well, because there's also the peer system, the peer review system that is still in place. So it's you should, I think, join hands there. That's my presentation. This is a digital publication where we've put lots of examples concerning valorization and information on policies, because people asked us, can you tell us what it is? We need clarity. How can we assess it, and how do you organize it? And we've put lots of information on this in this digital publication. Thank you very much.
Thank you very